You're watching the TGM production. Hello, welcome back to One Comedian 8 Questions. Today's date is the 28th of July, and I don't mean to panic anyone, but Edinburgh is on its way. Let's not panic. But we're back doing One Comedian 8 Questions, the series where I start off by knowing what number we're on and realising maths isn't my strong suit and forget. And then realise it's my own fault. But hey ho, that's the fun of it. No one knows what number we're on. Not even you at home, unless you've got a notepad and pen out and you've been writing this down. That's quite rude of you. Don't do that. But we shall crack on. My guest today is best known for being a comedian. It's the one and only Elise Harris.
Hiya!
No,
I don't usually say that, but hello.
no. So let's spin our wheel and see what question number one is. Diddle-diddle-diddle is my own noise. Let's see what the first question will be. What is your dream comedy club or comedy venue? Because I don't know how many comedy clubs actually still exist as a separate building. But what's your dream comedy club or venue you would love to perform comedy in?
Well, you've got to say the Comedy Store, which I've never, ever, ever performed in. I've been in
Wow,
there, but
wow.
from the very start, it's like,
Yeah.
oh, they'll only let you in if you're friends with the management. I'm like, oh, I better just stay away from there then. So, or if they really like you, I'm like, let's just not even go there
Yeah.
because it's very hurtful when people don't like you and you know it. So you're like, don't put yourself in that situation, really.
Wow. Wow.
So, yeah.
I mean, the comedy store is. I've only ever been once, and that was
Yeah.
earlier this year. And you walk in there, and you immediately, well, the moment I went in, that you immediately feel the presence that you're
Yeah.
in a comedy powerhouse,
Oh
and it's
yeah.
it's one of those things that even if you're not like into watching live comedy, you know what that venue is. You know of it regardless. Do you think that that would be daunting if you did get to perform in it?
I don't know, because I'm sort of I was reading about ego death the other day and I thought, yeah, that's where I am really. It's like, I'm gonna win all the awards and be so famous. And I'm like, yeah, whatever, it's fine. So at this stage, I'm like, I don't care, whatever. Don't know me, I don't care, whatever. So probably not now, but
Yeah,
at any point in the first few years, most years really,
yeah,
until like now, where I'm just like whatever, take me or leave me. So probably
yeah,
not so much as it would have done in the past when
yeah,
I panicked about everything.
yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, because as a comedy fan, I went to the comedy store and I'd never been before, so I was
Mm.
just thinking, oh, it's one of those things you just go in. But because it was a special moment, because someone I had interviewed, Neil Malarkey, was doing his
Oh yeah.
final comedy sort of thing, and that atmosphere was like we'd got these really nice seats, and because I'd interviewed him, I vaguely had some connection with him. We were just sat near his friends and family, and then Nick Hancock was opposite us. So it's like from an angle that you see Nick Hancock, and then you see the rest of it, and everyone's just like, oh, and this one, his wife's near us, and explain how she's organised this whole thing, and it's like, are we in the right place? I felt like we were going to be ushered to move, or we were going to be, or there was going to be a massive coup where that accidentally formed into this. So that we thought we were going to accidentally be involved in whatever she's got planned because all the friends were in a square. We were trapped in the middle of her friend's that side, she's that side, and we were there. And it's like it's a brilliant venue, but it's also that makes it
Yeah.
more daunting if every comedy person you've ever wanted
Yeah, exactly.
to
Look
meet
at
is
the
in one
people.
room.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Because I was sat there looking around, going, "Oh!" And then there was a camera in the corner, and the camera was near the toilet, so there's a footage of my dad going to the loo. So she's having this, said, "Oh, he's a brilliant man, Neil Malarkey. He's brilliant. Oh, I'm gonna miss him so much." And you see my dad just beeline it for the toilet, and that's his crown. That's his famous moment because that clip went everywhere. So every time I turn my phone on, I could just pinpoint what moment he went to the toilet.
Mm.
It's just brilliant. But do you think that the Comedy Store is one of those venues that it's more famous because of the name rather than the building it's in?
Well, yeah, I mean, I know people that were like the one that go, "Oh, we're the original comedy store in America," and they go, "It's not the real one. It's got the social," because it's not connected at all. It's just
Yeah,
happens to have the same name. So it's I think the fact the whole thing you've got the comic strip presents and
yeah,
all the comedy store players and all the people that play there, and everyone's like, "Well, I did the Gong Show. I did 5 minutes at the Gong Show," and people are really really proud of that. And I'm like, that sounds terrifying. It's like people just throwing things
yeah,
at you, and if you can just make sure that you duck it and hold it out. It's just like it's gong shows are scary, and I
yeah,
think that's the way in for a lot of people. And it's like, well, I'll just leave that. I'm not a very aggressive sort of in your
yeah,
face person, although a lot of people might beg to differ. But I try not to put myself in that situation. I just sort of end up in that situation, but
yeah.
I don't want to put myself there.
Yeah, yeah, and I think the only problem I've got with the comedy store is it's not really what I mean. We call it a shop, but it's not really a store, is it? Apart from they are selling alcohol beverages, but that's a pub.
It's true.
But it's not
Yeah.
really a store. So
Well,
either
this is store
version,
as in this is where we
yeah,
store the history of alternative comedy. It's
yeah,
stored in this place rather than a shop store,
yeah,
as in a I was going to say refectory, but that's
yeah,
also a cafe. What was I saying? Yeah, a sort of yeah, a
yeah,
box of comedy.
yeah. Or a broom
A
cupboard,
broom cupboard,
a
yeah.
broom
It's
cupboard.
not massive.
No,
That's it. You know, it's like in the like 90s, people would go, look at this big band playing
yeah,
in London, and they'd have the reputation, and they'd go to London and they'd visit the actual venue, and it's like 4 people can
yeah,
fit in there, but people make reputations on something that's not really
yeah,
necessarily true.
yeah. It's slightly bigger than the broom cupboard on the BBC. So they can probably do a lot more adventures.
Yes.
You'll see the rest of I can't think of his name. I'm gonna annoy me now. But the butler that was hanging around with Ed the Duck. I can't think of his name. It'll come to me. But you'll see the rest of his body at the comedy store because the broom cupboard was small and you only saw his hand. That was a
Exactly. You get a lot of puppets.
yeah, yeah. And then you have a puppet master. But that is beside every point. On that note, before we get sidetracked to Ed the Duck skiing to the theme of Ski Sunday, which is still the greatest thing I think I've ever seen on planet Earth. It's just Ed the Duck skiing, but it was green screen, so it's just him pretending to ski. It's just an odd thing to be watching, but I've seen it 59 million times. It was like the before Charlie bit my finger. It was viral before Charlie bit my finger became viral. But on on that note, we shall spin the wheel before we get sidetracked. Let's see what the next question is. Diddle-a-did-da-da. So, what is one thing, or it might be a collection of things. It didn't have to. But I'm not going to be annoyed if you don't go with one thing. You can say multiple if it fits better. But what is one or a selection of things that you regret about when you did your first ever bit of stand up?
Well, that would be everything. I made the mistake of doing the wibbly wobbly boat when that was still floating, but it was after, I mean, what's his name? Oh, just I'm gonna be ejected from the comedy scene. Malcolm, he's the guy that was like really he did balloon dance in the 70s and 80s and whatever. He
Yeah.
ran it, but he wasn't alive. He'd sadly you can look it up what had happened. But it was after that, but it was shortly after that, my very first gig, and I'd been asked by somebody to no, yeah, somebody said that's a really good gig to start your comedy career at. That person lied very badly because they were trying to make a reputation to after the whole thing to get it back off the
Yeah.
but people knew that that's where you go to heckle the comedians even then it was after it. So I went there for my first gig and I couldn't see the person that was running it at all. I didn't know where they were. So but some woman came up to me and said, "Oh," I was like, I don't know how long I'm going to do." She said, "Oh, you can do 10 minutes." I'm like, "All right then." It was my
Wow.
first gig. I didn't have 10 minutes of material. So I went up still the person hadn't introduced me. I was about third on the first two gigs. The first two acts had died horribly. I thought, oh well, whatever. But I couldn't even get one word
Yeah.
out before there was this group of advertising executives or something at the
Oh.
front, and every single thing I said, they would interrupt and they were like, tell us a joke, and they were like, meh, meh, meh. And I told them the only joke, which is a dirty joke that I won't say. The only joke I've ever heard. I haven't actually heard anyone else say it, but I know very well where I got it from, so it
Yeah.
wasn't my joke. I know that when I was 13 at youth theatre, my friend John Carlson, who's now Sean Carlson, who's an actor, had told me this joke, and I thought it was funny. I'm not going to say what it is. So this is the only joke I had, and I credited it.
Yeah.
And because I was trying to get my material out, I was like, I'm going to carry on till I get my
Yeah.
material out. I must have done 10 or 11 minutes or whatever. And I went off. And then the actual person that was running the gig came on and called me, said that everyone that had been before was a C word and everything would be good from now on. Actually, every single comedian that went after had the
Yeah.
same problem. And there was one
Wow.
comedian that said that they were going to commit comedy. They were going to actually give up comedy forever. There was somebody
Yeah.
that was the MC from the Comedy Store that was like, "This is the worst gig ever. This is not how it is." But I've been called the C word. The person who'd actually said this is going to be a good gig asked this guy to apologize. So he did send me an apology
Yeah.
and gave me another gig at the same venue during August when there
Wow.
was no other comedians because they'd all gone up to Edinburgh. It wasn't much better, but it was slightly
Yeah.
better. But
Wow.
by the time I did that, I'd done three or four other gigs, and I was more
Yeah.
like, I don't care. It's baptism of fire, really. It was horrible,
Yeah.
but every single person that was like, no, I'm going to beat this audience. This is going to be best. This is going to be so amazing. We're like, oh, no, you're right. It's not good. But I got told off for going on too long. But I didn't know who the person running the gig was. So if I could have done anything better,
Yeah.
different, it would have been don't do that gig. And maybe
Yeah.
I would have really maybe had a bit more, positivity about
Yeah.
it rather than thinking this is going to be a complete disaster, which is
Yeah.
what how I approach every gig since, knowing how it
Yeah.
was.
Yeah.
Maybe, maybe
Yeah.
that.
But I'm not too sure you can get told off for going over when someone said you can do. It's
But
like,
it wasn't the person running the gig. It
yeah,
was a person running a gig, and
yeah,
they gave me a gig the week after and
yeah.
went, yeah, yeah. So I did 10 minutes of that, even though I didn't really have 10 minutes of material.
Yeah, but I do think that when you have advertising executives hurtling heckles, I did really hope that the story was going to end with them just quoting adverts because they're advertising executives. You could have just said, just come up with very niche heckles about different companies that have got
Yeah,
really famous slogans.
maybe they might have been accused of plagiarism, which I was because I'd
Yeah,
used somebody else's joke, which I credited. I said it wasn't my joke. It's like you must do your own material. It's like, well, I couldn't talk about it. But yeah, they were just awful,
yeah,
really. But
yeah.
they didn't do their own adverts, no.
No, but do you think that when you starting out because you were new to it, do you think you take any gig that's there because you're just trying to see if you can do this
Well,
as a
exactly. It's
viable
like
hobby?
this is a good starter gig. I'll do this gig. I mean, I kept going after that. It didn't make me give up. I kept going and I was doing gigs. But then actually, that wasn't technically my first gig because before that, I'd actually auditioned for Jimmy Carr's Comedy Idol, which is they before I did a gig. I
Yeah,
mean, what an idiot. So that
yeah,
was my first technical gig, but I hadn't actually done a gig.
yeah,
So I was just doing anything that was
yeah,
there. And I applied for that, and there was loads of comedians in a room, but they were doing them alphabetically, and so many people. I thought it was a genuine thing, but it turned out
yeah,
afterwards it was just a way to get extra material and take the piss out of talent shows for Jimmy Carr. But for me, it was like,
yeah,
wow, I'm gonna because the prize was was headline. Well, Jimmy Carr was the headline. You
yeah,
weren't
yeah,
headlining, but
yeah,
you were supporting Jimmy Carr. So I was like, oh well, I've got a chance for this because naively, not having ever done a gig, I know I did. By the time I got there, they'd asked us for like 5 minutes of material. By the time it was, I'm H
yeah,
alphabetically. Can you imagine? I was there all day, and by the time they got to me,
yeah,
they were like, "We're going to do 2 minutes of material," so I had to cut it down.
yeah.
But that day, I had well, about a day before, I got locked into the flat I was in Peckham, and because there wasn't an inner lock, there was only an outer lock, and there was like a shop downstairs, and there were some people squatting in the flat underneath, and they'd locked the door from the outside, and I couldn't get out. I don't think they'd realised somebody had moved into the flat above. So I had this whole rigmarole where the police had been called because I'd phoned my ex-boyfriend and said, I can push the key through the door and you can get to me and let me out. But he decided that he wasn't going to because he's my ex-boyfriend, and he phoned the police
Yeah.
instead. And the police were like, "Are you being held hostage?" And I was like, "No, I'm not being held hostage. I've got the keys. It's just there's no inner lock and whatever." So that was in my mind.
Yeah.
After, so I was like really talking about this rather than doing my material, and I was like, wow, 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 wow. And Jimmy Carr said, "You come across as you're mad, but you're not mad, are you?" I'm like, "No." And he's like, "Oh, do 10 gigs and come back to me." I'm like, "All right, is that how long it takes to become a comedian?" Anyway, he's not come back to me. I've done more than 10 gigs.
But it is one of those things where some people do comedy because they've been dared to by the friend. But I think
Yeah.
that for you, I think what really works is that you had a story that already, if you once you'd worked out the I'm going to say the word the kinks of comedy, you would be able to shape that into a perfect. You would already have the first stories to say
Oh,
this is already comical material, and I didn't even need to make it sound any more false than it already sounded.
well, I was just telling them what had happened to me on the way there, really. Yeah, there wasn't
Yeah.
a material I had was nothing to do with that, really. I mean, it was about being bitten by a rat and the rat
Wow.
died, which was also true. It's like, this is what I was like. I was very big on veracity. It all has to be true. So I was telling things that were true, and people were like, "That's a big lie. You're making it up. Don't be stupid. That's ridiculous." And I'm like, "But this is all true. What, why would I tell you something that's not true?" So
Wow.
I think maybe other people maybe exaggerate and make things up. And I just tell the truth, and people say, "You're exaggerating. You've made it up. Don't be stupid. That's ridiculous." And then they don't believe me. So,
Yeah. But I think going up like I think for Jimmy Carr doing something like that is interesting for him because he
yeah.
to me he doesn't always seem like the person that is willing to host. Well, I wouldn't say host. I mean to be there at a reality based competition based
But it
judging
was
based
fake. It
program.
wasn't real. But
Yeah, but
I didn't realize that.
yeah,
I thought he was genuinely looking for somebody to support him. But I think it was just so that he could. I mean, we all had to pretend that we were lining up and it was a real
yeah,
reality TV show. We were just there, like they'd throw some crisps at us. That was the food for the day. That was the
yeah,
catering. I think a banana and some crisps
yeah,
on a table.
yeah,
So I'm not saying it's. I mean, I thought he was a genuine great guy. But I mean, I'd sort of come across him before because I'd
yeah,
interviewed him when I was a journalist, and
yeah,
and also I went to an event and he was. So it's not like he was a stranger to me, but I mean, he I was a stranger to him because it was
yeah,
on the phone, so he didn't know who I was. There was no connection there,
yeah,
but I felt like I knew him. He didn't feel like he knew me. He just thought that I was just saying a load of old random rubbish out of my head. But
yeah.
he did laugh at me, is the thing. He did laugh, so that was encouraging, I
Yeah.
suppose.
Yeah, and I think that well, what's interesting in about that is that because of obviously, as you said, that it wasn't real. It's the fact that at that time
Mm.
when you watch TV, there was a lot of reality shows where
Yeah,
people were stuck, and this is life hasn't changed much since the people queuing in hotels to
yeah.
be in this thing because now they call that Comic Con. Um, and so what's interesting is that if you look at the landscape of how many people have stood in hotels on TV, you've got people that wanted to be in S Club Junior, and then you've got whoever wanted to be on a soap opera for like a week or two. I mean, that's a prize you want. Become an actor to be on a soap opera for a week or two, and then realise the viewers didn't like you, the
Yeah.
the, the writer didn't like your characters, and then you get sacked.
Exactly. And they go, "Well, that's just because you were in a reality TV show. That's
Yeah,
not real anyway." It's like, was it the Dingles on Emmerdale?
yeah,
They won a competition. Even like 30 million years later, it's still, "Oh, really? You only got there." It's just like it's ridiculous, really.
yeah.
People get there because they get there.
Yeah, yeah, they were famous reality stars, and then it's the fact that they get scandaled afterwards. That's like, oh, I was on this TV show. Woo! I'm now in the press for doing something naughty, which is being sacked by the
Yeah.
program I won the competition for. That is what you want in life. You want to start your career in a fun, interesting when you want you end your career, not just by the fact that you didn't get any more jobs. You want it to be in the paper. You did
Exactly.
you did good for
Ideally, a
them.
reality TV, you want to make a scandal or an impression. Now, I
Yeah,
won, I with some other people from YouTube,
yeah,
I won a reality TV thing that was on the early days of BBC Three, but it
yeah,
didn't really get any coverage. No, everyone was ignoring it, and we didn't really utilize it at the end. So we won, and they immediately like blanked us from the records and destroyed all
yeah,
records that we were there. So it didn't really help.
yeah,
It
yeah,
would have been better if there had been some sort of scandal. Oh, there are actually some of the people involved. There were later scandals we
yeah,
will not go into. But
yeah,
me, myself,
yeah,
one of the 10 people that was involved, did not have any scandals. So I
yeah,
didn't. But I felt like I dodged the bullet, to be honest,
yeah,
because some of those scandals from some of the other people were quite scathing and
yeah,
bad. So fair.
yeah. Yeah, and before we gently move on, I think that
Gently
reality,
move on. Sorry.
yeah,
Yeah,
I think you can have reality show scandals can go on forever. So
they
Kelly
can.
Clarkson, I saw a clip of her moaning at whoever because
Yeah.
she had won. I can't remember what she'd won. She'd won an American program. It's going to annoy me now, but she was going to win all this money, and then she never got the money. And she talked to another fella opposite that they had won the same program a
Oh,
few
American
years later.
Idol. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's
She
it.
didn't get the same
And
deal,
then
did she? Yeah.
And then he won the money that she was meant to win, and she just moaned on the Kelly Clarkson show. I mean, now she's a chat show host. I mean,
Yeah,
there's
she's above that.
yeah, she went from
Move
singer.
on.
Yeah, she shouldn't need the money
Yeah,
anymore.
Jennifer Hudson didn't even get into, I think she was like fifth or something, and she
Yeah,
had much bigger career. So
yeah.
it's what you make of it, really, isn't it?
And once upon a time, chat shows were the kings of telly, and you wanted to
Oh
have your
yeah.
own chat show. Now you're Kelly Clarkson, and I'm not too sure she really wants her own chat show. Especially in America because they've got the
The
Barrymore.
American Cilla Black.
Yeah, they've got the Drew Barrymore show where,
Yeah,
where Drew Barrymore forgets about boundaries and just goes so close that she's breathing in the ear.
yeah.
Yeah,
All touchy.
she's clawing after them with her legs on the sofa. But on that note, as we no, I was going to think of a pun there. I couldn't think of a Drew Barrymore based pun. She's not related to Michael Barrymore, and he knows that. Uh, on that note, let's spin on because that's the only gag I could think of to move that on. Um, well, right now
Now,
we're gonna go all the way back. Um, I mean, and that sounds like we're going back to the Dark Ages, but it's as far back as you see fit. As a child, a wee nipper,
yeah.
or a burn, depends on what part of Britain you are from. You can take whichever answer you want because I chose them all. As a child, nipper, small person, small
Yep.
human, what what TV show or a film, because not some people didn't watch much TV but did watch every film that was possible. What TV show or film as a child do you think may have helped you to inspire you to get into comedy or put it in the back of your mind and go later in life you realised, oh, that's why I wanted to do comedy.
Physical. I mean, I obviously Saturday Night Live used to be on, and that was there was all what it was is every single comedian
Yeah,
that had ever been performing in London got to be on that. So
yeah,
I was like, well, where'd I grow up? And I'll go to London and I'll be a comedian and then I'll be on that. It wasn't running at that time.
yeah,
It's not Saturday Live, not Saturday Night Live. That's it. Saturday Night Live is obviously that's really great, and I would
yeah,
love to be on that if anybody wants to put me on that. But Saturday Live, that's what it was, and it
yeah.
was also Friday Live, which is, I think Ben Elton was the MC, so
Yes, it
he'd
was.
be like a little bit of politics and whatever.
Yeah,
So every single person, so I got the impression that if you went into comedy, you would immediately be on the
yeah,
television, and that would be you sorted. So that was influential for that. But I also remember something called, which I think you can get on DVD now, called Children of the Stones, which is a different thing. It's more about trauma, really, because everyone gets turned into like big giant stones. And I used to have dreams
yeah,
where I'd be like pushed against stones, and it would be like. So I think it was, yeah, trauma and comedy,
yeah.
they come together, really.
They
I don't know
do.
why that would be comedy, but it was
Yeah.
comedy gold, really.
And and you mentioned Saturday Live and Friday Live, and I
Yeah.
think if I remember rightly, I might get the title, but they did a program which was called I think it must have been called Friday Not So Live, where it was a repeat, but they just added an extra word to make sure everyone knew it
Oh, right,
wasn't
yeah.
live. And
Maybe.
it's sort of that every night of the week they could have a version of the show airing, even though some are made
Ah,
anyway, because it was like on
all right, yeah.
a later time.
Possibly.
because not everyone's going to catch it live. And
No,
if I,
exactly.
if I remember rightly, it was
Exactly.
at the time when there wasn't, well, you could have recorded it on VHS, but there wasn't, not everyone had access to that. So repeating it in another slot.
Yeah. Exactly. And that was the only way you could see it again if you hadn't recorded it, if
Yeah.
they repeated it. It's not like streaming, you can just
Uh,
watch it 24/7.
Yeah,
No.
and then
No
they did the
point.
40th anniversary edition to sound well. They weren't 40. Channel
Oh
4 was
yeah, they
40,
did, didn't
uh,
they?
and it
Yeah.
had Moan Ridwan and
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think um,
Jordan, there's a couple
Yeah,
of different Jordans.
Jordan
What are the
Gray,
Jordans?
Jordan
There's too
Gray.
many Jordans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the same for the brand of shoes. Um, yeah, and I do think that having a show like that was loosely, and I say very loosely adapted from Saturday Night Live, I
Mm,
do think that it sort of showcased to the world of,
mm.
of Britain, because yes, it is a world, that there was a lot of comedy out there. Do you think that
Yeah.
that sort of said? Well, there is other styles of comedy. You weren't just watching. I'm going to be careful with what I say here. You weren't just watching Jimmy Tarbuck list off a load of jokes. You were watching Ben Elton scream the word Margaret Thatcher several times, or Maggie Thatcher, depending on what mood he was
Yeah.
in.
I know, because that was all Channel 4 and that was, comedy that I watched. But I
Yeah,
mean, obviously you grew up on the other sort. I remember it's going to age me, but I remember the day that ITV decided that they were going to sack all the old school
yeah,
comedians and everyone lost their job. And it was all about the school. Oh, Cannonball are going and they've cancelled Benny Hill and all of this stuff. And
yeah.
they just completely blanket got rid of all of them, went, no,
Wow.
we're not doing that anymore. But they didn't really replace them with the alternative comedians. They just stopped doing comedy, really. There was a couple of, I think in the 90s and the 2000s, there were a couple of sitcoms that
Yeah,
they did, but they just cancelled it altogether. So it's like, yeah, and you thought, oh well, the alternative comedy is gonna be up and coming, but it's sort
yeah,
of leveled off. So it's like not necessarily little bit
yeah,
this, little bit politics,
yeah,
because it's not right on anymore. It
yeah,
just is what it is. So
yeah,
it blunted everything, I think,
yeah,
when they cancelled all the old school, but didn't really let the
yeah.
new school do their thing.
Yeah, because I think that what really represents alternative, what I think that starts out as alternative is I do think set fire to people's
Mm.
heads as I mean the Dangerous Brothers were the list of people that you probably definitely didn't want on TV because it would be a health and safety nightmare regardless of what decade you're in. There'd be some poor person stood there with a fire extinguisher at the ready just in case anything goes
Yeah.
wrong, and that'd just be really unfortunate because you sat there watching going, "Ooh, it's not going wrong here." And they'd just be there for hours going, I want something to happen. But do you think that alternative comedy from what it was, do you
Yeah.
think that it's sort of changed to not be as alternative as it once
It's
was?
not
Or do you,
alternative at all. It's the same. I remember in the early days of, I'd go and see a lot of when I was first starting out, other people's comedy
yeah,
clubs, and you'd be like, "Oh, look, there's another 35-year-old white man. Oh, look, there's another one doing the same material." That is pretty
yeah,
much, it's very, very anodyne and
yeah,
very nothing wrong with a 35-year-old white man. It's just there
yeah,
are a lot of them,
yeah,
a
yeah.
lot of them.
And then some of them are 40.
Some of them
Um,
are pretending to be 35, but then,
yeah, yeah, and
it's you stay 35 forever,
yeah,
really, I think, in
yeah.
comedy.
Yeah, yeah. That's what happens when you go into comedy. You get the aging thing where your face ages, but your physical age. It's like a jack, but instead of aging backwards, you just stop at 35.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
it. That's the only age you can be in comedy. Oh,
yeah,
well, once you're 40, you can't do stand up anymore. A lot of people have said that. And it's like, but you're 70, you go. And they go, no, I'm not.
yeah. But do you think that when you see a lot more character comedy on TV,
Yeah.
do you think that that's where alternative comedy is gonna go? It's gonna stop it. They're gonna stop calling it alternative because they're gonna call it character comedy because you've got like that
News.
woman that thinks she's a 40s, 1950s like famous Hollywood actress who just
Yeah.
sits there on a piano, which is the weirdest thing you've ever seen. But it was in line of winning a BBC New Comedy Award. But do you think that new alternative comedy is now character comedy?
Possibly. I mean, the character comedy's always gone through. I mean, in the days of like Friday Live and stuff, it was mixed in with everything else. You didn't have one or the other. You'd have like Fascinating Aida, and then you'd have Loads of Money, and then
Yeah,
you'd have Ben Elton and some. Julian Carey. It's Julian Clary character comedy or stand up. It's one of those
Yeah,
crossovers, really.
yeah,
So you get all of that. So now character comedy, you don't see that much character comedy, but you do see more recently. I think it was
yeah,
very out of favor for certainly when I started. It was very frowned upon. I did do a comedy school thing, and we had a guest. Actually, the person that was teaching us to start with was a character comedian,
yeah.
and the person running the school was like, "Yeah, he's just a character," and everyone was like, "He's a character comedian. It's not." And he stopped being the I think he lost all hope and stopped teaching us about halfway through, and we got Rudy Liquid
Yeah.
halfway through, who's an actual stand-up. So it's
Yeah,
completely, and we're like, what? Because it'd been a different. So character comedy, he was perfectly respectable,
yeah,
but in the comedy, people that know this was. Oh, it's
yeah.
just a character. It's just a character, and like Catherine Tate, and was like, it's just character comedy. Whereas, much more successful than most of the people that she started with.
Yeah,
So I think it's more marketable, but maybe still frowned upon by the people going, I'm pure comedian.
yeah,
What are you doing that for? Bleh."
yeah,
Yeah. So yeah, it could be that it's more alternative. I mean, I do a lot of character comedy in videos, but I wouldn't dare to do it on stage
yeah.
because everyone would be like, this is
Yeah,
yeah.
and
Yeah.
yeah, because I think because I every time I turn on the TV, which is
Mm,
more often than some people would think is the normal, but you always see some characters. Like the other day, I was
mm,
watching because of Guz Khan, I was watching Celebrity Deal or No Deal. I wouldn't normally
mm.
watch it because it's the same thing every week.
Yeah.
Oh, is it blue? No, but Barbara Knight,
It's like, yeah,
Janice Connolly was there the entire time as Barbara
yeah,
Knight, and it freaked me out because at one point the person next to her is doing the most funniest, saying something really funny, and I'm really worried that she's just going to stop being Barbara Knight and just become Janice
yeah.
Connolly
Don't
by
break
accident. Yeah,
character.
and the records like hours apparently, like takes all day, and it'd be really exhausting pretending to be
Yeah.
Barbara Knight all day.
But exactly, it's like being a drag queen. It's like I saw some drag queen saying, "We're not going to turn up at an event as don't get paid for it. Don't do it." It's like don't do it unless you have to do it. Really,
Yeah,
it's difficult. Really.
yeah. And
Yeah.
on that note of characters, let's move on and spin our wheel to find out what our next characterful question is, which is
Woohoo.
so. This question it depends on whether or not you've done Edinburgh in a solo capacity before,
Okay, sure.
whether or not you know exactly the answer, but you may know it, you may just know a
I'm
generalization
gonna
of this
know it. Yeah.
answer. What is one key thing that you would or wouldn't change about the first time you ever did an Edinburgh show?
Well, I wouldn't badmouth the person that ran the show so that they sacked me on the fourth day. Probably, probably wouldn't do that. Although, to
Yeah,
be honest, I think there was growing problems. It's my favorite Edinburgh really because
yeah,
I got to just hang around and video people and talk to and schmooze. But
yeah,
I probably wouldn't do that. But I was absolutely under the impression that we were going to win all the awards when we started it, and it was a sketch show.
yeah.
And actually, the reason they sacked me is that I'd gone away for a couple of. I was still signing on at that point, so I was
Yeah.
like, "I'm going back to London to sign on." I don't sign on now. Let's be honest, it probably wasn't a good idea. I wasn't making any money, so
Yeah,
it wasn't as if it made any difference. But I'd gone back, and
yeah,
they were like, "Why have you done that?" It's like, "Because I have to." And then I came back, and I was exhausted because I decided to stay somewhere very far out.
yeah.
And they had decided while I was away to stop doing the sketch show and do an improv show. And I was just like, oh, it's too much for me to do. So I turned up to the improv show and I was like, yeah, improv, wow. Like, you're not into this, are you? You're not happy. I'm like, not really. No. So they're like, let's just part ways. So it was an improv show for the rest of it. So I would plan better
Yeah,
and the thing is, if you're doing your own show and it goes disastrously wrong, then you've only got yourself to blame.
yeah,
And I do blame myself very badly. But, there's an interaction with other people.
yeah,
Um, yeah, there were three other people in the show, and I still talked to one of them. I don't know what happened to the other two,
yeah.
really.
Uh, but but when you do a solo show, you can sort of tell by the end of it, the
Yeah.
show might be slightly different the way you started because you might have had
Oh.
a
After
different
the first
avenue.
day, yeah.
But I think that is it usual that you start a group piece as a sketch thing and then you decide, nah, let's chuck that in the barrel, let's just
I
make it
don't
all up.
think it is. That's why I was like, what? We're not doing. I know this isn't the. It's maybe not going down as well as we thought. We're not going to win the
Yeah,
award, but let's just stick at it, I thought. But they'd already decided after the first day, really, because one of the people, this guy he had an Elizabeth the First costume. It's
yeah,
Robert Inston. Oh, no, me. He's got an Elizabeth the First. He's
yeah.
obsessed with Elizabeth the First. One of his stand-up show was mainly pretending to be a Dalek, but he also really liked Elizabeth the First. So flying, he would dress up as
Yeah.
Elizabeth the First. So everyone expected us to have Elizabeth the First in the sketch show, and we didn't. So by the third day, they decided we better have Elizabeth the First in this.
Yeah,
So they let him dress up as Elizabeth the
yeah,
First. So it was already changed
yeah.
very early on when the marketing was demanding Elizabeth the First, and we weren't like wall to wall out. So it
Wow.
had already changed. So I think it's not normal, but it happens.
Yeah. So you mentioned there about him pretending to be a Dalek. Now,
Yeah.
what's really interesting is that there's an episode of Doctor Who with Elizabeth the First in it. So, I mean, it sort of matches his
Yeah,
passions
same
in
vibe.
one. Yeah. I think he either knew that already or
I
that was just a coincidence that that was going to occur.
think it's a coincidence, yes.
Yeah.
It
But
might have been before that episode.
yeah. But do you think that when it changes, do you think when you're out there firing, that becomes harder because you might have had some audience member in the day before when it was a sketch show, and they
Yeah,
might go to the friend, oh, this is really good and bring them, and then it's something else. Do you think that's the hardest thing about that is because the
would have
marketing
been. It
yeah.
would have been. But our flyers were actually little printout things because the person running the show had like got like a little printer with them. So they were little they were just sort of bits of paper really,
Yeah.
so it was quite easy for them to just get different bits of paper. They had spent money on the flyers,
Wow.
so in that instance it's difficult because
Yeah.
2 years ago, was it last year? Last year, I've just, it all blends into one.
Yeah.
Last year when I did my show, the venue that I had was
Yeah.
called one thing when I got the venue, and then they changed the name, and I got the flyers on the first day to take account of the
Wow.
new venue. And then a week in, they changed the name of the venue again, so my
Oh.
flyers were still out of date. So that is a problem because you've printed the flyers, you
Yeah.
spent money, and I'd accidentally double ordered because it was online, and I'd lost. It's very difficult
Yeah.
to keep an internet connection, so I was losing. So I thought I'd ordered like 2,500, and
Yeah.
I'd actually ordered two massive boxes, these useless flyers that
Wow.
had the wrong details on them,
Yeah.
and that was disheartening, let's put
Yeah.
it that way. So in that case, it's like I'll just stick at it because I had to. I was just like,
Yeah.
this is the wrong venue. It's the right, it's the same number. It's the
Yeah.
same venue number. Thank goodness they've got venue numbers, but
Yeah.
people will get very confused. So
Yeah.
that is a bit of a problem when they change the name of your venue when you're already in it. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's quite good that you didn't accidentally get the wrong size because that's what I would have done because the A's are really confusing, so you might get a massive one
Yeah.
or a tiny one by accident.
I did that the year before. I wanted A6 and I said, oh, A5, A5. I'm like, oh, that's not what I wanted. They're too big. They're too
Yeah,
big.
yeah, and I think if
Floppy.
I remember rightly, A0 is like really, really, really
Yeah, yeah,
massive.
exactly. It's like it's bad. It's the wrong way round.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
I'll have an A3 flyer, please. It's like, because that'll be the little one. No, it's not. Ah, my God,
yeah.
I've got a massive poster. A2 is the massive poster, isn't it? Yeah.
And if you can't afford your Edinburgh flat, you can always use the poster as a blanket because it's big enough to wrap around you.
Yeah. Small
So.
mercies.
Yeah, yeah, and on that shiny note, let's spin on to our next question.
Wait.
And at this point, we've already forgotten the numbers. Well
Oh,
done,
it's like
me.
four or something, isn't it? It's very long-winded, my answers to.
So at what point is a better way to phrase it? Well, at what point in your comedy journey do you know that it's the right time? You're able to use that as an income enough because obviously once you get into comedy, there's avenues of getting into TV and
Oh,
acting and
right,
whatnot.
yeah.
But once you get to that point in the stand-up journey, when do you know it's right time to part the day job or whatever you were doing in the sidelines to stay
Interesting
afloat.
story. because I actually parted my day job 2 weeks before my first Edinburgh, which wasn't necessarily a good idea. Very bad idea,
Yeah,
actually. I thought, I'm going to Edinburgh. I'm going to quit my job. I'm not having fun there because I've been so excited about it. I started making short films on YouTube. I've
yeah,
started doing a separate improv group and doing the Edinburgh show. I was like, this is me. And I was a
yeah,
little bit exhausted because I was also doing stand-up gigs and secretly printing my flyers on the office. Anyway, I got in trouble. They were like, "You've been talking about how exciting everything is, and you're too loud." And because it was an open plan office,
yeah.
everything you said was heard. They were very angry at me, and they said that I should have therapy. And I was like, "No, thank you. I'll just quit my job." And so I did.
Yeah,
And then the week after that, I won an award for my short film, and I thought, I am on the right path. And then I went to Edinburgh. I'm like, this is great. And then obviously everything fell through when they were like, you're no longer welcome in this show. And I was like, maybe I didn't make the right decision here. And then it's been a sort of snowball of, oh no, ever
yeah,
since, really. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And you
So
meant
not too soon. I would
yeah,
say, not when you think, oh, it's all going to be good. Give
yeah,
it a little bit.
yeah. And you mentioned therapy. If I'm not mistaken, some people, some comedians out there say comedy's therapy. Would you agree with that statement?
I think you can pretend you like everyone goes, this is just therapy for me, and everyone always gives you a great laugh. You're like, no, it actually genuinely is. But again, it is the trauma that I'm getting it's its own trauma.
Yeah,
So in a way it's the therapy, but you wouldn't have to have the therapy if you weren't doing the comedy. So it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, a catch 22.
yeah. And I do think it's one of those things when someone does like a show about the recently passed relative or some
Always.
traumatic event that happened in their life, I do think that's the issue where you end up then becoming a lot more traumatized because you've had to relive those memories to write it. Do you think that
Yeah.
when they do that, is that the bit where it crosses the path of might be slightly dangerous for them mentally?
Possibly, I think it might be, but it's all cathartic, isn't it? Like my
Yeah,
last show last year was a mixture of comedy and spoken word, and I billed it as theatre, but it was everything.
yeah,
But because I'd called it Little Circus, it was expected to be a children's show by the children. And the thing is, it
yeah,
was me talking about my childhood, and I suddenly realised that I couldn't do any of this material in front of children because my childhood is far too traumatic,
yeah,
and it would destroy these children. So I'd have to not do any of this thing. So I didn't actually get the cathartic effect because
yeah,
I couldn't do any of it. I just have to go jolly happy because I get like 4-year-old in the audience because it
yeah,
was easy to stumble in. There was no real barrier at the door.
yeah,
So it's difficult. I think you can get therapy from it, but you do have to be
yeah,
careful. Yeah.
yeah. And
Balance.
I think when you title a show like Little Circus and you realise 4-year-olds are doing it, would you have then
Very
change the
silly.
poster to writing like scroll in the middle of it? This is not for kids. Do
Yeah.
not wander in.
Do not bring your children in here. I will
Yeah,
traumatize them. I will traumatize them talking about what happened to me when I
yeah,
was 2 and 4 and 5, younger than your child. Don't
yeah,
come. This is
yeah,
why I'm here. Is this what you want your child to become?
yeah,
Doing this in the
yeah,
basement of a pizza oven. It was really just
yeah.
outside the pizza oven.
But what you could have done is, as they're walking in when the show's about to begin, you could just play all the horror scenes from It, of all the clown bits from both the original It when he's walking out the book, which is still terrifying, or anything of modern It. You could just play just like scary clowns, and then when they walk in, they go, "Yeah, that's not for us. That's
Yeah.
not for us. That's not for little Timmy. Get Timmy out of here."
Yeah.
And
But
yeah,
I was prefacing it all with this isn't for children. Yeah, this isn't for children. Go away. Go away. And they would just go, is this part of the show? Let's stay. No. So, yeah, I could have
yeah,
shown them. I mean, I had a poem about my traumatic clown experience. It's like
yeah,
everyone's got one. But
yeah, yeah.
yeah, I could have
Well.
shown them pictures, but I was trying to keep away from other people's copyrighted material,
Yeah,
really.
yeah, and before we swiftly move on, I think you mentioned that everyone's got a traumatic clown experience. Well, when I was, no, it wasn't that long ago. It was about, I don't know, must be about less than 10 years ago. I can't remember. There was an issue where some internet thing had made clowns scary again, and there's a place nearby, and there were apparently World War III was between someone else and the clowns. That was a rumor that didn't get that far. We weren't the brightest tools in any shed, so it didn't get to all the clever people. None of the clever people got the memo of World War III, humans versus the clowns. So I do think people, you are right, everyone has a traumatic experience, but I do think whoever invented that must have been really traumatized.
Really traumatized, yeah.
Yeah,
Now, and you, if you've ever met clowns, they're perfectly self-facing, lovely people
yeah,
generally, and it's not their fault
yeah,
that they're traumatizing generally. Although the one that traumatized me, I blame, but but
yeah, yeah,
mostly generally, he wasn't dressed as a clown. He just told this: if you say you're a clown and you're not a clown, then you're just
yeah.
lying to me, really. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, and I think I think a lot of clowns now decide not to wear all the makeup. They wear
yeah.
bits of it because obviously you now know the horror implication, but they don't want their art form to be horrified because people still go to clown school in France.
Oh yeah, and there's a different sort of clown though. There's like
Yeah,
I actually went to audition to go on one of those clown
yeah,
schools and I got rejected. So that's another traumatizing experience for
yeah,
me. They're not letting me be a clown. Actually, more than one time they've not let me be a clown.
yeah,
Twice that's happened to me.
yeah,
Clowns, not letting me in. That's what the traumatizing thing is because everybody actually secretly wants to be a clown
yeah,
and they don't let you be unless you're very special.
yeah. And now they've got the wrong Comic Cons for clown. It's a clown convention, which
Ooh, how
I
many
think.
can they fit in that?
Yeah, yeah, it's like one of those massive clown cars. That's the whole
That
venue.
big, they fit 150 people in that space. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and when they're in the queue to get in, they've got the massive shoes, so they've got to like stand 2 meters apart to
Yeah,
do the
woo.
massive thing. Yeah,
It's all the way down the street.
yeah, and that's very comical. It's very no, I'm not even going to attempt that joke. So on that note, let's move on to what I believe is I'm gonna say number five. If I'm wrong,
All right,
I don't.
might be.
Uh, so. In your own personal opinion, because everyone's got their own ideas, what do you see as a prophecy? I don't know why I said the word prophecy, but that is the word we're using. What do you see as the prophecy of the future of comedy look like in your own opinion, from what you can see, from where you're stood, sat, or whatever form of comedy you're looking at? What do you think the future will look like?
I think it might get more rough and ready because the way that when photography came, that painters had to be more impressionistic.
Yeah,
It's possibly because of the advent of AI. You have to be more human and you have to be
yeah,
more completely unprofessional looking really and that becomes the standard and you sort of you have to have the earthiness and the
yeah,
grit, so maybe it's going to become a lot more random and sort of I mean surrealism is AI thinks it can do surrealism,
yeah,
although it doesn't think, obviously.
yeah,
But I mean, human surrealism is a completely different thing. You're just like, what?
yeah,
Yeah, because I mean, it's all to do with. I think it needs to be more human. So I think it's all going to be a lot more human and earthy and
yeah,
stinky, really, maybe going
yeah.
forward.
And I think that at some point in the future, AI will develop a thing where it tells a joke and then it has to have a reference to who the joke's from. Because 9 out of 10 times, it's not its own joke. It'll be like, here's it reads out a joke, and then it says Frankie Boyle, and then whatever year he told the joke. I think that'll be the future of AI. It'll just go downhill.
You're gonna have to reference it, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. You're gonna have to see the standard referencing of most universities because that's the only referencing anyone understands anymore. But do you think that with comedy being more open, as in, and from what I can gather, and I don't know around the world, but to me, it seems
Mm.
like there's more comedians now than there's ever been in its thing. I think you find 15, 20 comedians just in one area, and then you find 20 more that you might have never seen on TV because obviously you see the same 12
Mm.
on TV, which isn't a problem, but it's just a fact.
Yeah.
Um, do you think that comedy will become more accessible as the future goes on because there's more people in comedy, there's more ways of consuming the comedy, there's more avenues for people that can't get to these venues to do comedy
I don't know,
can.
yeah. it's quite regionalized because I mean a lot of the comedy clubs have closed. A lot of the pubs that people used to
Yeah,
have rooms in there aren't there anymore.
yeah,
It's in any given area where there was like a function room, there's not even a pub anymore. So
yeah,
it's more difficult to get your own gigs started in local places, I
mm,
think, although people can try,
yeah,
unless you've got a lot of money behind you. So the gigs that do happen are a lot more corporate and
yeah,
streamlined and guaranteed to make money for the person doing it because you're just gonna. Whereas I think they were. I mean, I think they were always localized. You'd have like
yeah,
people doing stuff in Manchester and people doing stuff
yeah,
in London, and they didn't necessarily cross over. It was a different circuit and stuff. Whereas now you can do like TikTok or YouTube. Still, people do YouTube, I think,
yeah,
and you can do whatever you want there. But
yeah,
and you might get the audience, but it's not legitimately necessarily recognized. There's
yeah,
still not the like you can do something in one medium and it doesn't get recognized in
yeah,
another. And the people still doing the comedy circuit are, are very sniffy about the internet. I mean, I did a lot of when I started, I was doing
yeah,
the circuit trying to very basic level because it's
yeah,
really difficult to get off the bottom rung of the ladder
yeah,
and also doing stuff on the internet. And the internet stuff was an awful lot more successful.
yeah,
And I would get hate messages from people that were like, I'm an experienced professional. You need to come and see me. You don't do this rubbish. This is nonsense. And I'd be like, well,
yeah,
no, it's not. It's not. It is what it is. It's
yeah,
the medium isn't necessarily the message. The message is the message. It's all the same. To me, whether you're on TV or you're making your own, or whether you're doing a tiny club or whether you're doing the comedy store,
yeah,
it's all the same. It's just everyone gets very sniffy about you're on a different circuit to me and you're in a
yeah,
different rung and you do internet and you do this. And I think it needs to be more democratized and everyone needs to realize that we're all doing the same thing.
yeah,
We're all working together. And even the people at the highest rungs aren't necessarily making the money that they did 30 years ago.
yeah,
They're just like it's all facade. It's like, let's be honest, the money isn't necessarily there. We're all just trying to get to the
yeah,
place where it is there. So I think it should technically it is from the people that are making the decisions as whether you move on further, it's more democratized. You see, TikTok stars being,
yeah,
you know, here and there and ever. But then again, mostly it's because they know people still, and it always has been mostly because you know people. It
yeah,
doesn't really matter where you come from if you know if you've got the
yeah.
connections.
Yeah, and I think that you mentioned internet. I think having platforms like Twitch, which is live streaming a
Mm,
lot, and because of the raft of comedy, there's a, and I didn't realize he was Australian, but there's a comedian who I thought was British, but he's Australian. He does very alternative stuff because he acts like he's a video game character,
mm,
but he live streams it all on Twitch. So it's like you can, it's like Next Up Comedy, for example.
mm,
They did the Glee Club in Cardiff quite recently, and they
mm,
do some of the well-known venues, and then they do the Edinburgh Fringe because
mm,
not everyone can make it up, and it's really nice. And I think that having live streamed platforms, so
mm.
if you wanted to do stand up from your bedroom,
Yeah,
and pointing no fingers at myself, which is what I do. You do it live on Twitch and have an audience. Not necessary. It's not necessarily works if you want to do crowd work. It's slightly harder because you instead of just pointing at that fella in the front, you have to look at the username and then spend 4 minutes trying to work how to pronounce it because it's some random fluffy unicorn panda 85 or whatever.
yeah.
But do you think that having live streamed platforms as well sort of helps it because it is still a live environment rather than YouTube, which is a pre-recorded sort of edited format.
Yeah, I mean, doing shows live is always you get the energy and you get the interaction, even if you can't actually see the people.
Mm,
You've got the feeling that the people are there. I do a
yeah,
sort of stream every Sunday. Hardly any people there, but the fact that there are
yeah,
people there means that there's some sort of feedback loop, really.
yeah,
So I mean, you have to though, if you're doing it without the audience, just imagine the audience is
yeah,
there. You have to, I mean, it's like when people write poetry, it's like you're writing poetry for yourself or you're
yeah,
writing it for an audience. There's a
yeah,
there's a difference. So if you're doing it for other people, you still feel that. But the thing is, like, there's a big thing about TikTok. It's like, oh, oh no, they're only letting me have 300 views, and then it stops. It just,
yeah,
because of the algorithm, and you get a little message saying get 9,000 views and pay us. It's like, That might bugger. So you stay up 300 and you go, oh no, only 300 people are watching this. But then you think about
Yeah,
doing an Edinburgh show, and sometimes you could do the whole 28 days or whatever
yeah,
and still not have got 300 people
yeah,
viewing you. So
yeah,
it's like, eh,
yeah.
it's swings and roundabouts
Yeah.
in it.
Yeah, and I think it was Sandy Toxic that said she did it. I think it's Sandy Toxic, it might be someone else, where she said she was doing a show and then she couldn't cancel the gig that day because the
Hmm,
only person that turned up was her mother-in-law.
hmm.
And so she can only perform it to this one person, which I think is still interesting
Still,
because it's like it doesn't matter who's there. So Simon Bird did an excellent stand-up special
yeah,
on Channel 4 and there was no audience there.
yeah.
A, it was beautifully done, and B, you still felt the comedy because it's like watching a sitcom with no laugh track. You still find the jokes
Still get it.
there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
It's the performance really, and it's you have to have the audience in your heart.
yeah,
Oh, yeah. No, I've done a show. This is every year you get somebody going, I only had one person in my audience and getting a load of
yeah,
press. It's like, and so
yeah,
who hasn't?
yeah,
I've started to show with no people in the audience, and maybe people wander in and go,
yeah,
what on earth is this? Because I've done a lot of free fringe shows and you can do that. You
yeah,
never know you don't, the trouble with that is like you don't have ticket sales beforehand, so you never know whether anyone's going to turn up.
yeah,
The one thing about paying £2 million for a set venue and whatever is
yeah,
you tend to know whether you've got an audience beforehand and can plan ahead.
yeah,
But who hasn't had one person in the audience? And
yeah,
and it's like the divas that go, I'm not performing, there's only one person. That one person has come to see you.
yeah,
That one person wants a show. Are you gonna let them down? No. Don't
yeah,
let them down.
yeah.
Don't let yourself down.
I
It's
tell
still a
you,
performance. It's still that energy. It's you need to survive
yeah,
like you're a vampire sucking
yeah,
the lifeblood from the audience, and they're usually sucking it from you mostly.
yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah.
Just treat them like a parent that's watching you in your living room doing some random show that you've put on for them as a child.
Oh, they can be very judgmental
Yeah,
parents. Maybe
yeah.
don't do that.
Yeah, maybe not. But I think that there was a comedian last year who did a protest for
Mm,
the Fringe to raise awareness for the costs and whatnot, where he put on a show, but he didn't turn up. The whole point was and the problem is he advertised it as if you turn up, you don't know if I'm going to be there. But
mm,
the article's already said comedian not turning up to his own show, which sort of ruined the whole point
yeah.
of the show, which I thought was hilarious because it was Chortle of all people. Chortle wrote such a body's not going to turn up to his own show, and then in the article it says, but the whole point of the show is if you turn up, I may or may not be there. There may or may not be a show. You can come if you want but there may not be anything going on. You may just be there for an hour doing nothing. And the issue is that Chortland made it clear he wasn't going to turn up, which I just thought was hilarious 'cause it missed the point. It missed the whole point of his protest.
Well, that's chortle, isn't it? Let's be honest.
Yeah,
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 the Bible of stand up.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And before we gently move away from Chortle,
Let's
that was
move away before we say something we regret.
but
I
they did
regret nothing.
they did a post where they went Ali G's got a new film out and it was hilarious because it was Peter Kay's face and everyone else said I didn't know Ali G had changed. Did BTK create Ali G? And then every so often it's like they end up reporting the tragic passing of of a comedian, and then it had PTK's face.
Yes, I saw that. It's like, oh no.
Yeah, yeah. It's
Peter
someone.
Kay's always there. The thing
Yeah,
is, Peter Kay, this is the way that it works is there is usually a picture that's got nothing to do with the article that pops up because there's
yeah,
an advert or a sidebar or
yeah,
something. I think they need to work on their
yeah.
coding on that.
And that is why, and this is not saying awful things about Jordan, but that's why the
No, no,
British
no.
comedy
Why would we
guide.
say awful things? They don't
Uh,
say awful things about
uh,
anybody. They don't destroy everybody's burgeoning careers before
yeah,
they even start and say really terrible things. They
yeah.
never do that.
That's why the British comedy guide is a better website.
Very
Um,
much so.
yeah.
That
And that's not being awful about Chortle. That's just saying my own personal
is
opinion.
just reasonable.
Yeah, it's a reasonable opinion. So let's spin the wheel to find out what our next question is going to be, and let's find out. Is it going to be a repeat? We've not had one yet this series. Yes. As I say that, I jinxed it, and it is a repeat.
Jeez.
Let's spin it again. That's why you should never say words before. It tempts
Yeah,
fate. So in your life, you will have said a lot of words, because everyone speaks. But if you can remember, not everyone can remember. Some It's like Giles Brandreth has got a podcast where you have to remember your first ever memory, and then he had to speak to a memory expert that said no one actually remembers first ever memory. So this might you might not actually remember your very first, but you might remember your early day, like
yeah.
in your burgeoning childhood. But what is your first or earliest joke you remember telling to someone?
Oh, well, that was my first day of school. I heard somebody said, "Do you want to hear a joke?" And I'm like, "What's a joke? I don't know what a joke is." So the joke they told me was, why did the orange stop on the hill? Because it ran out of juice, which I thought was funny, but I didn't know why it was funny. And I went home and told my parents, and they went, "That's not a joke, that's not funny." I was like, "No." So I went in the next day and went, "Apparently it's not a joke and it's not funny." And they were very offended. And I was confused, to be honest.
Wow. Yeah, because I do think that as a child you would find anything like the word poop is funny or doo doo,
Yeah,
even though as an adult you sort of find the word poo a lot more humorous because it's a lot more a mature way of laughing. Because poop is an American word. But do you think that as you get older you sort of discover ways of because that joke to me is funny, but then
it's classic.
as you get older you can find alternate ways of changing it to make it even funnier because
Mm,
every joke is a structure, and if you break down the structure, you can go, I'm gonna cut it whole. It's like a Christmas a cracker joke.
yeah,
It's funny, but there's ways of making it even better and
yeah.
changing it and changing. Do you think you notice that as you've got older when you've looked at different jokes and you've tried to tell jokes and someone said, well, that's funny, but what if you change the punchline to be the beginning and have the beginning as the end?
Yeah, I can't remember what joke it was, but there was something involved King Kong at some point, and everyone's like, "The reason that's not funny is because you're putting it the wrong way around." And I was
Yeah.
like, "But this is my joke," and I got very
Yeah.
offended by that. But they were probably right. I can't even remember what it was now,
Yeah.
which is interesting. Oh, I've forgotten my own material. What was that? I know, whatever it was,
Yeah.
they were right and I was wrong. But I was very precious about what. Yeah, but no. I know that that's the better structure,
Yeah.
but I'm very much anti-comedy, really. I think really a lot of the stuff I do is so like, here's me being desperate and terrible.
Yeah.
You can laugh at me if you want. I won't be offended because
Yeah.
I know. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that what's interesting is that because of there's so much comedy out there, and it's hard to find a joke that you think is originally yours.
Mm,
And I think that what comedy does really well, and you've probably noticed this as a comedian, is that when you've got a joke, you think that's gold mine. That's like the
mm,
greatest thing you've ever come up with. And this probably was a segue to be able to tell my greatest joke ever. So was watching Painting Birds with Jim and Nancy Moyer, right? So
mm,
it's obviously
mm.
just Vic Reeves
Yeah,
being Jim Moyer
yeah.
painting a grey bird and finding the bird in the wild because that's what he wanted to do. And I was watching it and I thought the greatest joke was what do you call a bird that needs an inhaler? A puffin.
Mm,
Which I always think is the creme de la creme because it's the first time I've ever come up with what I would call a very joke similar to Tim Vine
classic. Yeah.
because Tim Vine's taken all the best ones, so you have to sort of get there before him. But do you
Mm.
notice that now that when you now doing comedy, you can find jokes and go, oh, I see what they've done there. But you see, rather than it being funny, you can see from a comedian point of view
Oh
what
yeah.
makes it funny.
Structurally, yes, but I think that's very much a lot to do with Stuart Lee's material, where
Yeah,
he, did lazy comedy, whatever's, where he like break down people's
yeah,
material. So it was like a comedy masterclass. This is what people do. That's why they're funny. And his whole career is like, I am going to do the structure of comedy, and
yeah,
you are going to laugh, and you are going to wonder why you laughed, but
yeah,
this is why you laughed. So it's like, it's very much like magic. I want to see the secrets behind
yeah,
it and
yeah,
I can see the secrets, it doesn't necessarily mean that I'll recreate it in any good way.
yeah,
I know what works and I know
yeah,
what doesn't work, but that doesn't mean that I'm going to do it in a way that works. I'm going to just ignore that entirely. Ha ha! Look at me being an impressionist. I'm the new vague
Yeah,
wave,
yeah,
new Varg, the vague Varg.
yeah. So technically, Stuart Lee is what no, Stuart Lee is a comedian's version of Penn and Teller
Mm,
because
yeah.
if anyone doesn't know Penn and Teller, there you go. Uh,
Ooh,
uh, uh
magic.
Magic, yeah. Penn and Teller are everywhere, but Penn and
Yeah.
Teller are the ones that destroy magic, where they break it
Yeah,
up.
exactly.
Um,
While also doing magic and
yeah,
whilst being amazing at magic.
yeah,
And Stuart Lee's one of the people that makes me laugh so much, even though he's already said this is why it's funny, and
yeah,
I'm gonna make you laugh and I'm gonna hate you for it. Still like, yeah, good
yeah,
one. Yeah, exactly. It makes you think about it,
yeah.
really.
And so let's spin the wheel to our next wheel question, which I believe is our final of the wheel. Let's see what it will
Ooh.
be. Oh, it's another repeat. Uh, it's the World of Karma. Let's see what it's gonna be. Oh, when you're doing a work in progress for your hour-long shows,
Mm-hmm.
or as the Italian radio will call it, a special,
Yeah.
even though it is just an hour show, uh, and some of it is special. But do you carry a notebook with you, or is it all noggined up in your brain?
It's a mixture, really. I mean, I had a whole printout last year, and I didn't really look at it. I put it on somebody else's had got a music stand. I put it there. I didn't really reference it, but it was there. But it does become a little bit of a crutch, really. I tend to just, if I've written it in a notebook, I like when I did just before I did the Jimmy Carr and the first gig and whatever, I was cleaning out the freezer and just
Yeah,
doing the gig there. So my work in progress was while I was cleaning out the freezer. I think once you're in front of an audience, there is that sort of obligation, unless there's some sort of spoken word element that you can
yeah,
work it and you go, I have got like John Hegley.
yeah,
So whether he's spoken word or comedy, I think he's both.
mm,
But some people go, he's just a poet, and some people go, he's a comedian, whatever. So that's part of his
yeah,
shtick, is he's got the notebook on stage. So I think you can get away with that if you've got poetry
yeah,
or you've got a reason for it. I think even as a work in progress, I would tend to, if you have got notebooks or whatever or notes, try to hide them a little bit
yeah,
better because people have still come to see a show.
yeah,
Unless you can make it part of the show, I would shy away from that, really.
yeah, yeah. And some people could use it as a crutch of going, they look at
Yeah.
it, and then once they've got the gist of what the notes are, they can put it away
Exactly,
and
because
then
it
just
tends
click
it
on.
makes you panic, and you're just like, oh, I'm just reading the notes, and yeah, you need to just let it cook really in front of an audience because you get new stuff when you're in front of an audience. That's when you because of the spark, and you might have lost the spark if you're just looking at the book. So you need to see how people are reacting to it, really. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, on that note, we have finished our wheel, and our wheel did not choose our objective of
Mhm.
this interview. So, we shall move on to the core question that's crawling at our hearts, that are making us sweat with panic, that's
Ooh.
making us going, oh no, oh no, oh no, oh no, it's nearly time. And we don't want to panic here, even though I did just make it sound like we were trying to panic here. And I don't know who we are, it is just me. What is your 2026 Edinburgh Fringe show about? Please, thank you.
It's called Elise Harris Better Be Best. It's actually Better Be Best, but a couple of years, people that I have got an audience, even
Yeah.
though that surprises me, and people have stumbled upon me towards the end and gone, oh, I didn't know you're doing a show because I didn't put my name in it.
Yes.
So I put my name up front and center. It was going to be character comedy, and I was just like, I'll just do me because I am basically this is it. I don't know whether I am a character because I know a lot of my YouTube stuff that was just me.
Yeah.
People would go, whoa, I like that character. And I'll be like, well, so I'm like, you gotta understand that it's all persona,
Yeah, yeah,
but it's not gonna be so much. I even bought a wig. I'm like, forget that. It's just
yeah,
me. But I have got characters in it. I've got video in it. It's
yeah.
a sort of really rough presentation because I'm not paying for PowerPoint, which is unfortunate because the open source one doesn't have a lot of the bells and whistles.
Yeah,
And I had a
Google
lot of trouble
Slides.
even adding video to it.
Yeah,
So it's sort of I've got this thing. I've done a few of these shows where it's a sort of lecture, but it's not
Yeah,
really a lecture. It's
yeah,
it's the most random lecture. I know Chortle was like, "This isn't funny. What she's not prepared. This is awful. Why would you come to Edinburgh without being prepared?" It's like I have prepared. Can you not see? But so
yeah,
it is prepared. It's very prepared,
yeah,
but it might not look that way. And I'm just going to say that's how it's meant to be. I
yeah,
really am panicking a little bit about it because I thought I had it all in hand. And the closer it gets, the more I'm like, oh no.
yeah.
But the whole thing was I was going to do like a fake sort of lifestyle guru because ages ago when I was a journalist, I was interviewing somebody for when the History Channel started doing things that weren't really history.
Oh, like
It did a
aliens and
mini
whatnot.
series about Nostradamus. I was going
Oh
to say
yeah,
Nosferatu, different thing. And there was this same thing, different thing.
yeah,
This actor poet that was in it that wasn't
yeah.
actually playing Nostradamus, but I don't think I realized that at the time.
No, it's probably
Called
Nosferatu.
Kit, yeah, whatever his name was, he was in it. He was in it. I can't
Yeah,
remember his name now, but he was like, I'm a bit psychic because he was like, all right, are you? He's like, yeah, and the way that you are, 'cause I had very long hair,
yeah.
I can see this thing, I can see you doing this show, and you're a lifestyle guru, like that one that looks after Tony Blair. And I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. Anyway, I've looked it up since. And I thought, oh, I didn't do anything about that. And they've since passed away. So I'm like,
Ah,
maybe what I'll do is I'll actually do that. I'll be the fake lifestyle guru. But I
yeah,
didn't do that. But instead, I've got a lot of fake lifestyle
yeah,
gurus video wise. And it's a little bit of a less of a panic because I can just put on if the presentation works, which it won't. That whole
yeah,
thing about changing your show in the first day, the technology is going to fail me and I'm going to have to think of something else.
yeah,
But technically, it's like a TED talk about how to change your life and how to make it better. And these are all people that are going to help you.
yeah,
And it's me, obviously not being any better,
yeah,
really. But yeah, so it's a fake lifestyle talk,
yeah,
an amazing talk.
yeah.
I'm
So,
going to talk.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and you mentioned the History Channel. I do think that the History Channel, that I think, if I remember rightly, now called Sky History, is a mixture of a well-known A-lister film star wanting to talk about history,
Mm.
Tom Hanks, or it's a, I think it's called Alien,
Aliens.
I think it's called Alien Autopsy or
A lot of
something,
aliens. Yeah.
and it's conspiracy theory stuff, which is
Yeah,
absolutely
it's all
hilarious.
aliens.
But it's either World War II or aliens in the Egyptian pyramid.
Yeah, it was all serious, and then Nostradamus came along
Yeah,
and messed it up.
yeah,
I mean, it was a
it,
perfectly good miniseries, but it's
yeah,
like, is this actually history? I'm
yeah.
not sure.
And,
He was historical.
yeah.
Yeah.
And without getting into all the semantics about it,
Yes.
but Lee Mack hosted, well, Lee Mack hosted a series that got cancelled after one episode of that woodwork program, where they were all doing it was on they were all doing woodwork. It was actually not bad. It's better
Mm.
than any of the woodwork things Channel 4 have attempted. But they were doing some woodwork thing, and for reasons I shan't go into here, it got cancelled after the very first episode. But they could have fixed it easily, and they should have noticed at the time of recording. But that will be not my problem because I won't be mentioning that. But I'll talk about
Yeah, don't
it later.
mention that. No.
I'll talk about it later.
That stuff that you mentioned, don't
Yeah.
mention any of
But
that. No.
but what venue, what time
Ah,
is the Edinburgh Fringe Festival program show on at is the correct word.
it is at the Banshee Labyrinth Cinema Room, which I've
Yeah,
done before as a fill-in show, but not done
yeah,
a full run-in before. It's at 12:20, the
yeah,
noon 12:20, not the
yeah,
midnight after, just the midnight 12:20.
yeah,
So, I'm the
yeah,
first show, which is good because I can maybe sort my tech out
yeah,
because I've been in that venue before when other people have had the tech and they've used different leads and it's gone wrong. I'm hoping that being the first show, I've got the whole morning to sort
yeah,
it out. Yeah.
yeah. And then where? And I know this might sound like a very silly question, there's probably will be maps about, but whereabouts is the
Oh,
venue according to Edinburgh itself?
oh, right. Well, if you go down High Street and
Mm,
cross the road, and it
yeah,
starts to be the Canongate, it's on the Royal Mile.
yeah,
There's a road going down called Nidri Street, and it's quite near the bottom. Or if you're coming from Cowgate, you go up. So it's
yeah,
about a third of the way up or two-thirds of the way
Yeah,
down.
yeah.
Under the bridge. It's under the bridge, I'm a troll. Yeah.
Under the bridge, under the bridge. That's a very awful joke. But what dates are you running to, and have you got any days off in the middle?
Yes, I have. I'm the 8th till the 30th. I'm not doing the 12th, the 18th, and I think the 26th for
Yeah,
various reasons. I'm doing I think on two of those dates I'm going to be the other side of Edinburgh about that same time
mm.
near Easter Road doing comedian nice comedian I can't remember what it's called. It's like lovely comedians do poems at you. That's not the exact word it is, but it's
That
something
would be a
like
good
that.
title. Good
Yeah.
title. Lovely comedians do poems at
It's not like
you.
somebody else's show. I'm doing a spot on it, so
Yeah,
I've ruined the name of it, but
yeah,
it's just comedians doing poems or stories, yeah.
yeah. And you have the whatever that bloke. I think he's like Sam or something on them posters with his fingers out. But it's just like instead of him wearing on top of his hat, it says "Lovely comedians do poems at
You.
you," and he's got his finger out. Or he's on sugar. Either way, that's a beautiful title for a gig. Because it's very lovely. But on the days off,
Mm.
apart from your lovely gig that you're not too sure if it really is called that, what are you doing on the other days off when you're not gigging?
Uh, well, I mean, I've got the 2 days. One of them, I'm going to the Edinburgh, the AGM for the Edinburgh Fringe Festival
Yeah,
Society, which I'm obliged to go to,
yeah,
and for various reasons. I'm doing a couple of political breakfasts
yeah,
at the Greek Heroes,
yeah.
which is the venue I spoke of before that changed its name halfway
Oh
through.
yeah,
It's at the moment called Greek Heroes, but
it might not be.
bearing on previous years, it might be called something else next
Read
by the
Chor-
time I do it.
read Chortle tomorrow and it'll say something
Reach all
different.
tomorrow. And also, I'm doing a sort of online interviewing people show. So I'm
Oh,
interviewing people mainly out and about in Edinburgh, but probably what's going to happen is I'm just going to stay in one place and then upload them. I was going to do it live, but
yeah.
all sorts of problems come up there. Yeah.
Yeah, and you say political breakfast, and then this
Yeah,
might be the worst joke you're ever going to hear about it. But are you eating cereal whilst talking politics?
that would be great. Yeah, no, I think it's just because it's at breakfast time, like
Yeah,
9 o'clock or something, not early breakfast
yeah,
or early brunch, really. I think they just get like a panel of people to talk about what's happening in the news,
yeah,
really.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's like if Good Mythical Morning, which is a YouTube morning thing, and Sky News merged into one, because it's mildly funny people, and then heavy topics of politics, which could be mildly funny. Because I remember it was just yesterday, um, Radio 5 Live was cut into he asked Matt Charlie what he was doing next, because he was going to talk about TV. I don't know
Mm,
much about politics, and he was having a dog expert on to talk about why it's a bad idea to bring a rescue dog into number 10 because of Larry the cat. Because he said, "I'm not going to bring my dog,"
mm.
and what I found hilarious is Matt Charlie thought it was a really really good political move to bring a dog expert so the dog can say, well, if you really did bring this dog in, it'd probably attack Larry and they'll have a fight. I just think that that'd be the perfect thing for comedy. But Charlie took it so seriously. It's like, yeah, we've got this dog expert, and you would have been howling laughing. Someone must have been laughing. But I think that's what you should do at a political breakfast. You should have a dog expert on, or just an expert of a mundane topic to talk about politics. So that just would be
Mm.
hilarious. But with are you prepared for this or are you quaking in your boots? I know it's an awful question,
It's
but
a mixture of both, really.
yeah,
I do like a little bit of prep every day, and the
yeah,
more prep you do, the more you realize, oh no.
yeah,
But I think knowing that, because I've been so prepared some
yeah,
years, and then, like you say, you get there, and because of the logistics of the venue or something's happened, and you realize, or your whole show is based on something that happened in the news, and something else has happened
yeah,
in the news, and it's
yeah,
like, oh no, I can't do that. So
yeah,
people have changed their entire show.
yeah,
So no matter how prepared you are,
yeah,
it's not necessarily going to help. So you just have to roll with the punches, don't
yeah.
you?
And
See.
that's what Spitting Image did. They were doing their West End show, and it was going to be on the Lion King, and then before the first show, we had like three new prime ministers. They had to change the show, and in the end, they
Mm,
called it Idiots Assemble because that was the less political title, and it was all supposed to be like the politicians doing the Lion King,
mm.
and that was a whole shtick, and then they had to quickly change it every week. They had to change.
Yeah, you have to. I
Yeah,
mean, if you've been doing it for any length of time,
yeah,
you've got a bank of material, and you go that. I mean, that's why all the old school comedians lasted so long. It's
yeah.
like Bob
Monkhouse.
Bob Monkhouse, yeah, he had like the whole books, and it's like that material
Yeah,
is out of date now, but then it'll come round again, and you can change it.
yeah,
One, and also ignore that, don't do the old material, and just do something new, and just
yeah,
see what happens. See whether you can come up with something
yeah,
in the heat of the day,
yeah,
because pressure is very good at making you come up with new things.
yeah. And there's a show going on somewhere, and I think I can't remember if it's Edinburgh or not, but there's a show where three people
Mm,
who are all one of them was on Britain's Got Talent who have interviewed Steve Royal,
mm,
and I vaguely know the other two. They're doing a show where they're all playing either Eric Morecambe, which is Steve Royal, Tommy Cooper,
yeah.
and the most horrific thing I've ever seen. Someone dressed as Bob Monkhouse, but it looks exactly like Bob Monkhouse. Like, so uncanny. The family would even be fooled to think that that's Bob Monkhouse.
Whoa.
And that is the most creepy. But they're doing a show like pretending to be those people because obviously everyone wants to see that, and that's an interesting interpretation on the icons. But do you think that something like that is what people want for comedy now? Because they want the newer stuff, but then they also want to remember of the old times
Yeah,
and
they
want
want
like new
comfort, don't they? They want knowing things. I mean, I didn't mention this before, but I mean, I always was interested in comedy. So, like radio comedy from the
yeah,
50s
yeah,
and the 60s,
yeah,
like Round the Horn and Itmar and stuff like that,
yeah,
like really old stuff. And it's got elements that
yeah,
came up later in various things. Like Itmar's got the whole thing that came up in the Fast Show where you got, who knows, and
yeah, yeah, yeah,
the whole thing, the whole catchphrase and things, and they come through. And people like familiarity. People like to think, hey, this is something I can cling on to.
yeah,
And because no matter how much comedy changes, it always remains the same.
yeah, yeah,
Animal Farm.
yeah,
And so
yeah,
so yeah, people like touchstones. People like the characters, and
mm,
people like the old school comedians that you haven't seen them for 50 years,
yeah,
but you still remember them from if you're that old, or you remember you
yeah,
I mean, even if you're younger, you can see things on because it's all on YouTube and stuff like
yeah,
that.
yeah,
So very much like I worked in a primary school for a while, and the old songs would come up, and the kids would
yeah,
be like singing the song, and you join in. They go, "How do you know this song?" And you're like,
yeah,
"Because it's an old song." So
yeah,
things come up again, and people enjoy them again, and I think people enjoy elements of the past,
yeah,
stripped from all the controversial things. Let's throw
yeah,
them in the bin and just keep the good things. And I think
yeah,
people like the good things if you can
yeah,
disassociate them from some of the other
yeah,
things.
yeah, and I think that before we move away. But I think one of the things that is interesting about radio comedy, and I don't know if you know about it, but it's still the concept of it is absolutely hilarious.
Hmm.
I don't know if you've ever heard Educating Archie,
Oh yeah, yeah. The whole
where
thing. Yeah,
he
exactly.
can't do
But I mean, that was
ventriloquism.
there was also Charlie, I can't remember what it is, but there's the same thing in America, and
Yeah,
the whole ventriloquist dummy on the radio. It makes
yeah,
no sense, but people still loved it.
yeah, and it's about that
Yeah,
he went on to do TV, and it's
yeah.
about that everyone then realised
Can't do
he can't do
ventriloquism. Yeah,
and
exactly.
it's one of those things that makes you proud to be British, where someone just tried to do this thing and made it so clear that it was. It's like Harry Hill. Harry Hill does he he has the puppet, but obviously he makes it clear to
Yeah,
the audience that he's not doing the ventriloquism.
yeah,
He
yeah, yeah,
can't
yeah.
do it, and I think that he was trying to Archie Andrews was trying to do it, but then just pretending like he really could do ventriloquism. And that's why his TV career fell. But that is like comedy on radio at its peak. It's that and listening to the Archers is like the most hilarious thing they can put at that time because it's like anything goes and people are
Mm.
just willing to listen. And do you think that that's what comedy needs now? Someone where you have something so so weird, like ventriloquism going wrong on radio.
Possibly. I mean, because, oh, yeah. Do people listen to the radio anymore? I used to listen to the radio and I haven't for ages.
Yeah,
It's where it used to be the upswell. Yeah, yeah. I don't know. Yeah, maybe there's a comeback for radio.
yeah.
I mean, it's mostly podcasts now, isn't it? People
It
do their
is.
own podcasts.
It
I mean,
is.
it needs to be more people doing interesting things with
Yeah,
podcasts and not just sticking to the same thing, really.
yeah,
Yeah, not
yeah,
just like talking about Donald Trump head to toe, just head to toe, wall to wall,
yeah,
but doing some actual comedy. Let's
yeah.
do something innovative.
Yeah, like there's the rise in and then we are going to move on, but this is the rise of audio sitcoms now. There's that one
Hmm.
that's called I think it's like Lights and Braille, which is about a blind man, and it's got Steve Pemberton and Alison Steadman in it.
Oh yeah,
That's come out, and then there's another one which is called I think it's something superpowers with two question marks about an autistic sport group, and the bloke from America, Patton Oswald,
oh yeah,
he's in it. He's got a cameo in it, playing a similar character to what he does in America, but they make it very clear he's not the same. But some other A-listers are in that as well. That's
oh
written
yeah.
by autistic comedians, like Stuart Laws. He's one of the people that worked on that helped get an American involved, which is who would have thought? Who would have thought? But I think audio sitcoms are going to be the next boom in
Yeah.
podcasts.
Well, hopefully. But the thing is with that also is if you've just got famous people and people that you recognize is the problem. People do like familiar, which is,
Yeah,
what we're talking about, like Bob Bunkhouse and stuff. But there's not really that sort of upswell of innovative new stuff if
yeah,
you've got that. You need to have somewhere to start with. I think there's not that way in.
yeah,
You're already established at that point, really, aren't you? Yeah.
yeah.
But comedy's comedy.
Yeah. And so, as we draw this into to a close, could you remind our lovely viewers the name, the time, and the venue, and where people can purchase tickets for your Edinburgh Fringe 2026 festival show?
Right, well, they don't have to purchase tickets because it is a PBH free fringe show, which you turn up and yeah, throw all your money at me. And I'm quite happy to take all your cash that you've been saving up that you've got nowhere else to spend because there's nowhere to spend it. Yeah, it's more of a sort of like pay what you want thing, really. But I hope you pay all of the money. I'll take pennies even. Throw them at me. I won't mind. I'll have to duck. It is at 12:20 just afternoon at the Banshee Labyrinth Cinema Room on Nidri Street, and it is called Elise Harris Better Be Best. Yeah.
And there you go. Good luck if you're ready for a fringe show. There'll be more comedy and more things from Memoir because I don't leave. As the light rises, we close.
Ooh.
The lights do that by themselves. It's like sometimes they die, then you forget about it as you
Ooh,
do there,
dramatic.
and you sort of sat there, and what happens is then you get a fright. You're thinking, what's gone on? Because the lights
Ugh.
just turned on. That's horror and comedy in
Yeah,
one room. But
twisted together.
but thanks for watching and ta-ra! Why did I start singing? I have no idea.